This was the site of a battle. It's very windy up here, and actually this is probably a good spot for these windmills. We're on our way to Mount Hermon, but we're stopping at a battlefield, a battle site.
Syrian army passed through the Golan Heights with a force of 1,400 tanks. Israel had only 2 regular tanks against those Golan.
Unfortunately, we have to go through so many wars. And first war, we talked about 600,000 Jews, not yet with the Hebrew language. We are not yet the IDF being not no country supporting us. 600 Jews against 7 Arab countries with 100 million people that attack us. And after a year of battles, we keep the country. I showed you the map. We lost the West Bank. We lost half of Jerusalem. Now, the years are going by. The year 67. 3 Arab countries are signing contract to wipe out Israel of the map of the world. It was Egypt, Syria, and Jordan joined the last. What I'm going to tell you now is against all odds again, plan of God, not ours. And I'm going to prove it to you. Our plan was totally different. If we would have kept our plan, you wouldn't have been visiting Jerusalem. So, what's the story? 67, 3 Arab countries, as I just mentioned, are signing contract to wipe us out of the map of the world. And in order, remember always the Battle of Gideon, in order to make it clear that God is involved, there's not one single country in the world that says, hey, stop, you can't do it. They publish it in the radio, in the newspapers, in the television. They say, we are going to wipe out Israel of the map. And not the United Nations, not only total silence, they pack and they leave the areas where they were because they didn't want to get hurt. Israel, less than 3 million at that point, in total panic. We are in panic. We are trying to send 3 messages to King Hussein, the Jordanian, as we thought he's the modest one. We can convince him not to take part in the war. It's enough 2 countries, we don't need 3. We won't be able to handle 3 in one time. And 3 messages, one through the United States was sent to him, one through the United Nations, and one a secret meeting in the border, half Jerusalem, where it was the wall. Golda Meir meets the representative of the King Hussein, and she says to him, look, we understand.
Move it back a little bit, you're distorted. Move it back from your mouth a little bit.
Take it out of
Yeah, I could. That's why I walked up. I had to take it out.
I see, it's too loud.
No, you're fine. Now you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. So they move. The Golda Meir says to the representative of King Hussein. She says to him, "Listen, we know you signed the contract, and you have to stand by the contract. Otherwise, they'll say you're a traitor. You may shoot and shell. We won't consider it an act of war. But if you send your soldiers in, this is when we have no other choice." We were trying to persuade King Hussein not to take part in the war. We told him, shoot and shell, it won't be an act of war. And the war starts on the 5th of June. God had other plans, as I just mentioned, and we wiped out the Egyptian military in no time because of a trick our Air Force has done. First time in Air Force battles history, this trick has been done. What was the trick? Something so simple. How come no one thought about it before? Our planes, the minute the war started, our fighters filled themselves with bombs and blew off every runway of the airplanes, including highways that can serve as runways. So the whole Air Force of those animals were like sitting ducks. We could have come a week later and blown them off. Anyways, Nasser, the leader of Egypt, is calling Hussein He's calling Hussein, and I think he got that message from the one above. And he said to him, hey, listen, we are almost in Tel Aviv. If you want to share with us the coast of the Mediterranean and you have no harbor at the Mediterranean, you better push your forces in. Now, his military was kicked out of the Sinai at that point, beyond the Suez Canal. But he didn't, either he didn't know or he tried to lie to King Hussein. And King Hussein started to not only shell and shoot as he has done, but forces went in Jerusalem and over Netanya. For us, it was an act of war. We immediately pulled out the soldiers from the Sinai, sent them to fight against King Hussein. And we liberated Jerusalem, and we pushed him out of the West Bank. Now we are on the Golan Heights. The Russians saw the defeat of their allies. They came to the Americans and said, you go and stop the Israelis, or we will have to send Russian forces to stop them if they will try to get into Syria. But I did tell you that the Syrians were shooting and shelling for 13 years. The whole agriculture villages were actually living underground. Kindergarten was underground. The dining room was underground. They used to come out for a few hours, a few days, and then run back and sleep in the underground shelters. So, and here the Americans are telling us, listen, you had enough. You made enough. Hold it. Yet the people over here came to the general and said, we can't continue to live like this under the ground. You get rid of them. And he said, but the Russians said that we don't know what we have to do, but we are not going to live in that case here. We're going to move down south. This place will be evacuated. So he said, okay, what we will do, the general said, we will run up, knock down the whole Syrian military, and before the Russian will know what happens, we'll go back and say, we didn't do nothing. We didn't do nothing. And this is actually why it was, except that we didn't come back. We said, okay, no problem, we will go back if there'll be peace. And since then, we are here. Now, I just want to tell you what happened to us after that victory. What happened to us after the big victory in 48 and 67. Don't forget that the United States, 67, were deep in the mud of Vietnam, not being able to get anywhere. And the whole world says, look at those Israelis. In 6 days, they knocked down 3 country militaries, just like that. And everyone thought, wow, leave the dog, you came for me. I'll tell you something about it later. Anyways, back to the story. Where was I?
Vietnam and the
And
67
our generals started to feel super Jews.
Guess so.
And a J. Because everyone said they are genius.
Oh! Oh my goodness!
Okay, we're not part of the story. Luckily. They both have dogs, I don't care. Okay, it's always like this. That if it's not the machinery that comes and disturbs me, then it's an event like this. But back to the story, we don't have much time, here we go. So, our generals, you should have seen photos of them, and there is a museum in Tel Aviv, until 67. They go with shorts, they sit together with privates around the fire, cook potatoes, onion, whatever they can steal from the chair, from the dining room, and put it on the fire there. Generals and privates. Everyone was equal, except in the battlefield, the general was a general. And suddenly, after the 6 Days War, I'll show you photos. They are in the best restaurant of Tel Aviv, with a cigar in one hand, champagne on the other, surrounded with wealthy business people and with politicians. And they started to, look, I probably, my mother didn't tell me, just like my mother told me I'm a super. I am, look, the whole world thinks so. And this is, remember I told you about having something on your head? What happened 7 years later? Boom, a surprise attack by the Syrians and the Egyptians. King Hussein didn't want to take part in that war because if he would have, we wouldn't have been sitting over here. Suddenly, on that very special day on Kippur, 1,500 Russian Syrian tanks are coming in through this valley. This is why it's called the Valley of Tears. We didn't think that such a thing can happen to super people like us, because even Moshe Dayan, the guy with the patch in the eye, he was our victorious general, once was asked in an interview, what will you do if Israel will be attacked by an Arab country? He said, no one will dare to attack us, as they know it will mean for them to commit suicide. Okay. So, we were not ready for that war. It happened suddenly. Here were 177 Israeli tanks, while 1,500 Russian tanks are coming with night vision, and we don't have night vision. We didn't care for the new weapons that came out. And they started to come. I won't describe the battles. Heroes are people who, when their tank was demolished, they jumped out, wounded into Syrian tanks, killed the people, took the Syrian tanks and started to shoot the other Syrian tanks. They didn't know what was going on, chaos. But only to show you. I was at that war, and there was no food delivered to us. We didn't have weapons. We didn't have clothes. We came with half civilian, half what we brought from home, and half what they gave us over there. And if you take, at that time, it was Golda was the prime minister, and our Secretary of State was a guy by the name of Abba Ibn. He was born in England, studied in Oxford University, a professor for the English language. He spoke English better than the Queen, who just passed away. And Golda was born in Milwaukee. They have a visit, President Nixon and his Secretary of State, who is whom?
Kissinger.
Kissinger, who has a German origin. He's Jewish, of a German origin. And he speaks with a heavy German accent. Yeah? Golda says to him, President Nixon, we both have Jewish Secretary of States, but mine speaks better English. Anyways, when the war broke out, she called, and you can read the diary of Kissinger. He wrote it. He's still alive. I've heard him not long ago. And she calls Henry Kissinger when the war breaks out. And she said, Henry, we need ammunition, we need spare parts, we need clothing, we need oil, we need new weapons. And Henry, we need it not now, we need it yesterday. So you make sure we get it. And Henry, don't forget who you are. So Henry said to Prime Minister Golda, I'm first of all an American, then I'm the Secretary of State, and then I'm Jewish. So Golda said to him, Henry, in Hebrew, we read it from the other side. We did get the weapons. I remember the Messai Lau was Lau, L-A-O-W, was the weapon vessel we got, and we got it at the battlefield. And here we're near the Suez Canal, and it comes in a box, wrapped in nylon. We tear the nylon, open the thing, and there's an instruction book in English. So they're screaming, anyone can read English over here and translate? It only shows you how much we were full with confidence, thinking we can do everything. And after big victories in 48 and 67, God said, hey, I'll have to lower your heads a little bit. Now at the end of the battle over here, 8 of our tanks were left. 8 of our tanks, and they had nothing. Out of the 1,500 tanks, they were all here demolished, and we had still operating 8 tanks. Imagine that it would have been a little bit different. They would have come all the way to Jerusalem. I want to end up by saying, and this is the lesson, or the message I want to give you. Look, in the 6 Days War, we tried to keep Hussein from not taking part in the war. We tried to convince him, don't. And God made the trick that he listened to the guy who lied to him, and we got back Jerusalem with the Temple Mount and the whole West Bank. On the Yom Kippur War, he was already afraid. He said, what do I mean that? I already got my lesson in the 6 Days War. He didn't participate. But with 8 tanks, we couldn't have done nothing to him. So what can I say? No more. Let's go to the bus.